I'm Dr. Angelique Johnson from the Wealth Builder Movement. I am out here today with Jackie Floyd and Daphne Walker from the Russell Place of Promise. They're going to give us a bit of I call it a wealth tour of the Russell neighborhoods. They're talking about the historical wealth aspects of the Russell neighborhood, where we are today, and also what Russell Place of Promise is doing to kind of bring back what was taken in wealth in this area. So I will let Jackie and Daphne kick us off on this amazing tour.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Once again, my name is Jackie Floyd. Not only do I work for Russell Place of Promise, but I'm a long-term Russell resident, and I love history. What I can tell you about Russell, blacks started moving into Russell the late 1800s, and then by the 20s and the 30s, it had become a predominant black community. And as we walk, we're going to talk about Quinn Chapel. This is the site of many civil rights meetings when they were doing about housing segregation. They met here with Dr. Martin Luther King. His brother was a minister down at 22nd and Zion, so he was in Louisville quite often. And as we walk, do you have any questions, Dr. Johnson?
Yeah, so a lot of times when we think of wealth, we think of like public sector and businesses, but we don't think of the church. And I know back in that time, the church was more than just a place to go for worship. It was a meeting place for political activism, as well as for wealth meetings in terms of business generation. How do we preserve, a lot of bankers, especially when we have black neighborhoods, we have bankers, we have lawyers doing deals and connecting inside the church. Do you feel like with some of these staples that we've kind of lost over time, that that's still happening today, or?
Well, I still believe that the church is the foundation of the black community. And one thing, and I want to say something too. When we talk about wealth, building black wealth, wealth encompasses so many things. Not only financial wealth, emotional health, just various things. Okay, because I don't want people to think, okay, we're building black wealth, financially, and just think about the money part of it, but it's the emotional, the social, the educational part, as well as the physical part. So the church this church was the foundation of the black community. Like I said, it had many civil rights movements. They were planning and studying and trying how to segregate not only downtown, but the housing as well. And people met here on Sunday. It provided not only a religious foundation, a spiritual foundation, but a social foundation as well. Because one thing, they work together, they socialize. Well, where did you go to get that outfit? Blah, blah, blah. They were like that. Or did you know Sister So-and-so is having a rough time right now? And for the emotional social, okay then, you're going to slip her some food, take her some food. It's about building, social, because as you build that financial wealth, you still need that social and emotional help. You're not out here by yourself trying to build it. It's like a teamwork, family, community.
To do it. Yes. That kind of reminds me of, we call it social capital.
Yes.
And a lot of millionaires and billionaires say that that is the most valuable capital you can have. Mm-hmm. And these are people that have all this liquid capital, but no. Social capital is what? And in many aspects, we have social capital when we have a community, when we have a meeting place like this, when we're connecting, and we overlook that social capital in terms of the wealth story. So I'm glad you brought that up.
It's very important. I'm a history nut, and I love the news. So one day I was watching the news, and they were interviewing our former president, and they were asking him, who are your closest friends? Who do you lean on? He said, I have no friends. The only people I have are business associates. And I'm talking about, well, you might be rich money-wise, but you're not rich friend-wise, social-wise.
Wow, yeah, that's really good.
So right now what they're doing, this church has been closed. The new church is on Muhammad Ali. They are restoring this. They got a grant from the federal government to restore this. And as we decide what this is going to be, they are restoring. The front of this is not the original part. The original part is in the back.
Oh, wow.
And I hadn't been able to prove this or find this anywhere, but they said this church was part of the Underground Railroad. And it might be, it might not be, but I like to think it was, because it is a church, our foundation.
Wow. That's amazing. Do you think that, so I'm assuming it probably won't be a church again. No. It'll be something else, right?
Right.
So that's really interesting, how repurposing buildings that were once one thing to something else. Are you seeing a lot of that happen in the Russell neighborhood, the repurposing buildings for different things, you know?
I am. As we go along, we see the mansions. Now they have been divided into apartments and everything. Dr. Johnson, I would like you to meet Freddie. He is executive director of YMCA.
Yeah, nice to meet you in person. I definitely have virtually seen you here and there. So cool. Well, we're out here today. We're with the Wealth Builder Movement.
Okay.
And we wanted to really get a tour from Miss Jackie and Miss Daphne, Russell Place of Promise of the Russell neighborhood, and just understanding the historical wealth context, where that wealth was stripped away, and then what entities like Russell Place of Promise, YMCA, are now doing to kind of bring back that wealth to this community. And when we say wealth, Miss Jackie put it spot on. We're not talking about liquid capital and being rich. We're talking about social capital. We're talking about assets. So what they're doing in terms of collective real estate investment.
Right.
So we're really talking about bringing back those assets to our community that we have lost over time, and we didn't lose them; they were taken from us.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say.
We didn't
That's
lose
it right
them;
there.
they were taken from us. So we're trying to reclaim what was ours to begin with.
Freddie, you want to give us a little history about the why? Because one thing that I love the why. In fact, these are my whys. The one right here and the one over right there, my why. Okay, this is what I first referred to. The why plays a part in the social and emotional wealth of the community.
Yeah, so, I mean, Y's been here since the 80s, and, Chestnut Street. And so, as far as how do we connect, building that social capital is what we've been focused on. And part of the issue that we're dealing with here is the sense of safety and security. Because I think when you talk about how are we going to be able to rebuild the wealth in West Louisville, there has to be some safety and security around that for people to begin to feel comfortable investing and reinvesting in West Louisville. So that's what we're focused on, helping youth connect with individuals such as Miss Jackie, other professionals around in the area, so that they build that network. We got programs like Black Achievers that are really influential. I feel like every other person that I meet that's professional has gone through the Black Achievers program. Half of my board members have gone through the Black Achievers program. And then a lot of them come back and volunteer. So they're pouring back. So it's a cycle that we're creating of folks that are just pouring into the lives of our youth, because we want them to succeed. We want them to be able to then pour back into the community. So that's what we're trying to build, that kind of cycle.
We had Orlando Allen earlier in the week. We interviewed him, and he talked about how with Black Achievers he had come back and he was doing some mentoring and some teaching around investment and youth, and teaching them about, what's an asset, and all of this, how do you do a savings account, how do you invest in this stuff. So he was teaching these complex topics to youth and getting it in their knowledge in their head early on, in their mindset early on, that hey, starting wealth really is a mindset, and you get that young enough. So I thought that was really cool. He talked about what he was doing with the Black Achievers program a while back. So
So we actually have received some funding specifically that work with youth around financial development. And so we're doing the stock market game, teaching them how to begin to build wealth around that. We brought in Angel Rich. She was our opening speaker and talked about the things that she's created.
She got a whole app for you, that's financial literacy.
Talked about that app. Just talked about how to create something that's not just a thing, but a thing that creates a solution for a problem that's out there. She ran them through a whole exercise. It was pretty awesome. So,
that's awesome.
And we can bring some workbooks over here. Ujama workbook are one of our staff members, along with Christian Bella, along with Play Cousin Collective. They designed this workbook, and it's for children, families, okay? Because I believe that it's never too young to start children on financial education about their money. Okay, you don't wait till they're 18, 19, or they go off to college and they get their first credit card and wham, okay? Right. So you start early, with the little 25-cent chores and things like that. So give me the information. We can pass it out to you, but we will bring some workbooks over here as well.
Okay, sounds good.
Awesome. Well, we're going to keep walking. You feel free to walk with us or walk to your office on the line.
I like getting a little sunshine and on my face every now and then throughout the day.
So can you, now Jackie, I know you had told me a little bit before about the history of the YMCA, and either one of you, Austin, to talk about it. You said that, this actually was a space before it was a YMCA where they had businesses in there, and it was a, not a community center, sort of say, but almost like a thriving community functioning business of the ecosystem inside of the building.
Yes, so this was actually at first a social group owned it, the Knights of Pythias, and then in the 1950s, 1956, the YMCA bought it. But before that, there was office buildings. What else?
There was doctor's office, accounting office, like the office space you see downtown.
Yeah.
We had it in our community. Back in the day, I like to talk back in the day, the 40s, the 50s, and 60s. Russell started like at 6th Street and went on down to maybe 15th or 22nd, okay? I'm not really sure. But what we had over 150 black-owned businesses. I mean, we had theater shows, we had doctor's office, we had restaurants, we had the juke joints, we had the nightclubs, okay? Okay, when you got ready to go downtown, you dressed up. When you got ready to go to night out, you dressed up.
Yeah.
Now, with urban renewal, now like they call it Negro renewal.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So when that came through in the 60s, what happened was we were at a disadvantage. We owned the business.
Yeah.
But we didn't own the building or the land. So we really didn't compensate for anything. Okay? Now there's a couple businesses that managed to survive the relocation. Okay, I know that Stitch Cleaners on 24th and Chestnut, he was one of them. I think there's several more, I can't think of their names. But like I said, this time around, Russell Place of Promise is working as we work with the residents that want to own business. We're not only teaching them about how to own the business, but how to operate the business, but we're working with them to own the land. So if anything comes again, we've got this land.
Yeah.
We've got this. If the tornado comes and tear down the building, this is our land.
Yeah. That right there. That is wealth, and you're so. I just love it because you're right. Like we talk about wealth being real estate entrepreneurship, predominantly stock market investment, but other investments as well. And sometimes we focus so much on Black entrepreneurship alone, we miss the other aspects of it and don't realize that if you only have one, is that you're not diversified.
Right.
We had financial advisors earlier on the week that said, be diversified. They kept saying it for everything. Be diversified. Well, you're not diversified if you don't own the land, and you're not protected.
You're not.
And land, is one thing. This land is land.
Thank you.
The land,
you can't grow any more
tangible.
land. Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah. So I see that as the most important piece, to own the land. Two, that the business owners, they work together. They provided service, but at the same time, because I know back when I was a little girl, many years ago, they said don't shop on Easter, because what happened was that when you went to one of the white stores, you want to try on shoes. What they do is you take your foot on a piece of cardboard and they draw it out, and that's how they bought the shoes. But in our Black community, you could go in there, try on the shoes. Oh, I don't like this person, and you can try on as many as you want. Okay, that was in our Black community. So we didn't spend our money downtown when they were treating us second hand, third hand.
Yeah.
We spent our money in the Black community. And I don't even know how many times that dollar circulated in the Black community, but it did circulate.
Wow. That's one of the things that people often bring up in the context of Black wealth, which is that segregation, obviously it was necessary, it had to happen, but the downside of segregation was that the dollar stopped circulating. So we were maybe so eager to spread out and join other communities that we didn't realize we had value in our own community, and that was, they said, now of course segregation had a problem with that. Other communities still bound together, but that's something that we lost, I think, in that transfer.
We did, because the Jefferson on TV.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good community segregation remind me of, is that as a Black person, when you start to move on up, you move out of the Black community, because when you move out of the Black community to another location, it says to people, I have arrived. I got this, okay? But Reverend Cosby of St. Stephen's, one time, he was preaching, right? He said, because you leave the Black community, you don't have to leave the Black community.
Yeah.
Okay? You still can support the Black community. And I think that some of us have gotten away from supporting the Black community. I think they still are working on that. The white man's ice is colder than the black man's ice.
Yeah.
It's ice.
It's ice.
It's just, ice and everything.
Yeah. That's true. we'll be talking tomorrow to some representatives from Black Farmer Associations, and they said they deal with that even today. That their price point has to be lower for a higher quality product because people are more eager to go spend at Fox Hollow Farms, but if they see a black farmer producing the same or better, they expect it to be cheaper just because it's a black farmer.
Yeah, I've been places where, you know, somebody's selling something. I mean, come on, man, we brothers, give me a break. But wait a minute, you don't go out there in their community and ask for a break, okay?
Yeah.
And it's really important that we decide how we want to spend our money because, as you say, that the prices are higher out there.
Yeah.
We go get our nails done out there.
Yeah.
Okay, that's required work, but yet we want back fresh vegetables at a higher price than the farmer.
Yeah.
So we really need to start looking at
Think about where the money's coming because
Right.
now I mean that could be a $90 situation just to get your nails done.
right. It could be, yeah.
You know.
And on top of that, I think we've gotten away from too is that the home cooking, the eating of vegetables. Yeah, and I think it's a lost art. I remember as a child, my mother and father, they would buy beef, a half a cow, and they would school with my aunt and uncle, right? And my mother and them would have a garden. They would grow the tomatoes and all the vegetables. So when they got ready to harvest, we cut up collard greens for days to freeze them, okay? But the excess, we traded off because this one might have okra, okay? You know, okra. So, you know, we traded back and forth like that.
We use a bartering system.
Right.
And you know that today people still barter in business, and you see that all the time. You know, I think we do it in the black community, but we wanted something we could do a lot better with and that you'll notice that it could be something simple as, oh, you have an accounting firm, I have a law firm. Right. Let's just barter services, or oh, you know, hey, I need to build a new, facility for my company. Okay, well, what do you do? And so you see that bartering still happening today. And that's so critical. I mean, that right there is helping you build assets by tapping in.
I know. And like you said about the Y, one thing I love about this Y, they have a school program. What they do, they walk these kids over to Keller Elementary, and then in the afternoon they walk them back. You see the buses, they stop, pick up kids, drop kids off, and the staff is doing that, okay? And they're treating the kids like their own children. Yeah. And I can say that because I come to this Y all the time. So I see it myself.
See that? Wow. So, I think that's really amazing that I'm out here, I'm seeing the youth, the kids, we're out here by the Y, and I always hear so much about, oh, the West End, you don't want to go down there, this time. But I'm not from Louisville, so when I moved here, I was told by black and white people, oh, don't go past 9th Street. Well, to me that didn't ring, so I immediately was like, oh, church I go to is down, it was like around 28th Street or something like that. It's far down. It was a black Catholic church. And I thought, why would you section off a whole part of this? It didn't make any sense to me.
No, they did that with Hurricane Katrina when they were taking some of the residents to move across the city. I worked for the Floyd for the homeless every day. So I was getting relocated. So they were telling me they had the housing crowd of people. They were told not to go to the West End. I'm looking at them like, we're the best end, okay?
Yeah.
We're the best end, okay?
Listen.
So, and I think it's helping a lot because one thing by you moving here, your new the black people is going to love you. Okay, they're going to be there for you. You're going to walk out your door and say, I'm having a rough time. And somebody's going to say, hey, what's wrong? Give you a positive comment. Okay, and you don't have to pretend you're at home.
So I was like, wow, this seems pretty cool. I'll go down there, go to get my grocery shop, and keep it moving. What y'all talking about?
I tell you, it's something I don't feel safe in West End. Hell, I don't feel safe. When I go across my street, okay, I'm looking, got my pepper spray on my seat.
That is very true.
Yeah.
I haven't always lived in the West End. I actually decided to buy my house in the West End. But, I heard all those things too, like. And when I moved down here, everybody was like, why you want to live down here? But I love, to be around black people.
Yeah.
And like Miss Jackie said, I definitely feel safer down here than I do in J-Town, walking in the neighborhood, and not worrying about, who's watching. I look in and see,
Yeah.
what's going on.
So I know I have a few friends actually that have bought properties down here in the West End because they see gentrification happening, and although they're not from the West End, so they don't necessarily represent the exact experience people from here, they are black, and they say, hey, we want to make sure that there's still representation here, so let's be, like if I'm looking for a place to go, it's a good financial move.
Yeah.
And the salaries are going up. That's why everybody else is trying to invest. So it's good to build wealth, but it's also a good social move. It's a good, move in terms of helping out with the system to make it better versus just complaining and living on the East End and saying, well, gentrification and all, sorry on that.
Yeah.
So what would you say to people to encourage them that, to really consider, moving down to the West End, even if they're not from originally the West End?
One thing about living down here is the sense of community. I never feel like I'm hassling my neighbors if I need anything. When I moved to because I was renting first in the West End, and then I bought my house in the West End. Both places, my neighbors were like happy to greet me and say, how you doing? Welcome to the neighborhood. If you need anything, let me know. They check up on us. If they notice anything going on, they watching out for the house.
Wow.
So that's one thing, the sense of community. Also, like, things are close together.
Yeah.
I like that. Like, the grocery stores is an issue. But just being close and being able to go downtown and come back up and just be in the community. It's just, and also, it's not even just that, it's the diversity in the homes. The older homes are like better quality. They're built to last. And so, and the kids, there's a lot of kids in my neighborhoods where my son likes to play with the kids. They ride their bikes. It's just like, today is just a beautiful West End day. Like, that's what I just, beautiful West End neighborhood day. And I just love coming out on my porch, seeing the trees. It's just a vibe.
Yeah, it's a vibe. I like it. It's a vibe.
Yeah.
Come to the West End. It's a vibe.
It's a vibe. It really is. And it's a sense of just feeling like you belong.
Yeah, that's cool. And that's important, that sense of belonging.
Yeah.
And I know we're coming up on the library here, which has a rich history.
Super rich history.
Not only in the usage, but also how it was created, the firm that made it and everything.
So this library was actually the first library in the South open to and run by blacks. And some people say the whole nation. I'm not sure which is correct. But it actually used to be in a house that sat on 1125 West Chestnut. It's not there anymore. But yes, Miss Jackie, what would you like to add about this wonderful
Well, she said, actually, she's right, it was 1125. 1125 is where Corpus Jones came today. It was in a two-story house. And one thing about Russell Culture Promise, what we're learning with the residents, how to use the leverage we have. And we've done it before. Family Dollar, they have filed applications in the city of Louisville to sell alcohol beverages, okay? Well, we have in Russell, we had over 17 liquor stores. In Russell, it's just a little bit over a mile and some blocks, okay? So I mapped them out. We had one at 15th and Broadway, 15th and Jefferson, and then you had the Dollar General store selling alcohol, right? So here is Family Dollar here at 15th and Jefferson, and here's the liquor store.
Yeah, wow.
Okay, so I'm saying, wait a minute. So you sent a letter, email to Family Dollar. They didn't respond because we need to work together in the community, okay? But when you ignored my letter,
then we got a problem.
you got a problem, okay? Let me show you what we can do for you. So working with the other council people, we came up. We're going to have a rally across the city at the same time, okay? And we alerted the media. Russell people showed up and showed out. We sent over 300 letters to Franklin saying we do not want this in our community. At the same time, we had the intergeneration because my grandson, he was there, okay? So we had from like 8 all the way up to 60 something, okay? And they were holding signs saying we do not want this at the store. They did not get approved to sell beer.
So there you go.
Yeah. So we have that leverage. We just have to learn how to use it and create opportunities for us to use that leverage. Okay?
Wow. So I know we're coming up on another historic landmark here.
Okay, I love this. Okay. This used to be, when I was growing up, it used to be the Little Angels on the Board. Something like that. It was a retirement home for nuns, okay? So, so that closed down in sat empty for a long time. James Taylor, and have you ever heard of James Taylor subdivision?
No.
It's a black subdivision out there right before you get to Prospect, okay? The guy, the man that started building the houses up there, he's sort of like, these black folks are going into these white homes, cleaning their homes, and where are they coming home to? They should be able to come home to their home. So he started building the homes. They didn't go through a bank or anything like that. He financed it with his little black book, okay? And today it's still a thriving community, but it's like a salad gentrification, okay? Because it's cheaper to live in about home in James Taylor. This is right outside of Prospect.
Yeah.
So what they're doing is they're tearing down the houses and building this huge complex. And how can I put this in a nice way back there? Their council person is somewhat lukewarm into doing anything. They have a neighborhood plan.
Yeah.
But as you know, it's a black community,
Yeah.
and a lot of things are overlooked. Especially the drainage. They have flooding out there because they have built condos and everything over here. So the rainwater just washes down and it floods. MSD said it'd be about 10 years. So that's not on the priority list. But if that happened out in Norms Common or anything like that, yeah. So we have to learn how to advocate for ourselves, whether it's writing letters. And like I tell people, when there's an issue going on, you know how you get on the telephone and gossip about Sister So-and-so and her wig on Sunday, how she had a crooked Sunday and stuff like that. Get on the phone and start gossiping about what's going on in your community. You know, get everybody involved. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I don't think that's something people realize, that when you're talking about wealth and gentrification is about wealth.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's not just about, people want to come into a neighborhood. White people are trying to come into a black neighborhood because it's cool now. I think we get distracted by that story. We don't know. It's about wealth. And so part of the game is buy, hold, and get dilapidated so that you can drive down the values to an even lower point. So then you can come in and buy an even bigger fire sale. And so, we talk about Prospect and the James Taylor neighborhood and the flooding. To a certain extent, I wonder how much of that it's not to their benefit to fix the flooding, because the more it floods, the lower that value goes down, and somebody has already made plans to buy that land.
And those homes are beautiful out there. So what happened was, and I think it was a couple churches, anyway, it ended up being named James Taylor Nursing Home. And what I like about this, I respect this black man so much, and they named me after his past. He was out there in the subdivision, the kids, the black kids. He got a school bus and brought them into Central every single day. They don't have choice to go to Central High School or Colored High School or Lincoln Institute, okay? But he made sure that they had a bus to come here to get their education.
Wow, that's amazing. And then thinking of Central, I know you talked about some of the rich history of that school. You kind of want to highlight some of those things.
Yes. Okay. Central basically was the only high school that you could go to back in the day. Okay. And when you went to Central, and what portion you could come out and experience television. You can open up your own shop or go into the clinic, or you can open up your own beauty shop. Okay, because they realize, unlike today, they realize that everybody's not going to go to college. Everybody don't want to go to college. So since you don't want to go to college, let's take up this trade, okay? And then maybe later on down the road, you will go to college.
Yeah. Oh wow.
And not only you had so many people that they still support Central. Because Central has been in Russell since conception. We had 90 magazine, then at 98 Sheffield. It used to be the old male high school building.
Yeah.
So when the rich white boys had a brand new building over there on Perfect Breckenridge, Central moved in. And in 1952, this building down here on that, it was ready for the students to move into. But I want you to know, this is sort of sad. There has not been another high school built in the West End since 1952.
Are you serious?
I'm serious.
Whoa. That's crazy. And I know that in the past we had a conversation about, people kind of saying, well, because, the income levels, there's not taxes there, and that's why the educational systems in certain neighborhoods are less. But then we talked about, well, when they want to come in and fix up something because it's now beneficial to people that aren't black, suddenly we find the money to fix up.
That's what Central busing segregation started in 1974. They started busing, okay, rebusing again, okay.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, a couple years later, Central got a football stadium. They did all this fixing up of Central, and I think what irritates me is that when the white students coming in, all of a sudden they have the money to fix up the schools. I resent anybody when they say we have local foreign schools in the West End. We do not, because I don't want my child to say I go to a local foreign school. Okay, so my A is not as good as that person's A out there. Okay.
Yeah.
That, and they don't know, they don't understand that words affect our children.
Wow.
They keep saying that we want our children to have high self-esteem, but when they're constantly carried over on the news, and I know a lot of people might come to this me, but I'm gonna say this about being terrorists. I do feel like that. I was looking at good of easy, because when the child can beat the terrorists, they go out here to one of these white schools, and they say, "Where you going to beat the terrorists?" They automatically puts that teacher in a negative frame. Their mom probably on drugs. They don't know who their daddy is. Low income, blah blah like that. So now, when that child, the people that left beat the terrorists, they can live anywhere they want to in the community. Anywhere they get to choose. Because beat the terrorists, it went by your income when you applied to the housing authority. They stuck you where they had an opening. Okay, so you basically get to choose. But with that Section 8 voucher, you get to choose where you want to. So when your child goes to school and they say, I live on 40th Street or I live in the South End, they don't know anything about their income level, so they can't draw conclusions
About where.
Right.
And I think these issues are very complex.
Yes.
We always want to look at it as black and white, right and wrong.
Right.
But you're right, there's a complex dynamic socially, mentally, emotionally, financially, in terms of what we do and decisions around, as we call it, responsible revitalization.
And it's up to us to hold our elected officials accountable. Okay, it is. It's not, I don't want to keep complaining to you about the situation. Example, I'm not going to name the names. 1:30, I was at home fixing dinner, right? Somebody called me and said, Jackie, how come you're not up here? Up where? Well, they're having this conference, and your name's on the program, and they talking about Russell. And they asked me a question about Russell. I said, oh, well, who's there? They told me. Don't you know? As I posted on Facebook, then, with that money, I got to touch those people. They didn't know. Well, I got to take it one. And then later, when I see this other person giving a speech, I said, I need to talk to them. And I let them know that help grab anybody in Russell and not have somebody in Russell talk about Russell.
Yeah. This is not a zoo. This is not.
Right. No, it's not. Because here's the thing. We know Russell.
Yeah.
We know our community. And can anybody represent our community like we can? Because we have that love, that compassion, that respect for our community.
Yeah.
And we do realize that we do have problems. We have problems like any other community.
Yeah.
Any other community. And I think the reason there's so much media attention is focused on the negative in Russell because it makes good white folks feel safe on the other side of night.
Yeah.
So that's why it's really highlighted.
Wow.
So because what I do is when I hear them say something about Russell, and I got a couple for the cell phone number. Okay. You don't the negative so I need you to say 2 to 3 good things positive about Russell.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this has been a great tour, and I think what I love most about it is we have hit everything, every aspect of wealth. We hit the religious aspect, the church aspect of wealth. We hit social capital. We have even talked about the political aspect of wealth, which is, I mean, we could have a whole entire conversation about politics and wealth and how much legislation and that plays into the ability for Black wealth. So I mean, it's not just a matter of reparations when we talk about that. There's so many laws, there's so many agendas that block what, building wealth. And we talked about some ways of politically active, to be engaged with that. So I have enjoyed this so much.
Thank you. And to educate our community and to, one thing I don't like to say, I'm coming down to power people. We already got power. And we don't need you to empower. We got the power. What we're doing, we want you to give us an opportunity to use our power. But we are coming to the point now with things to these young folks that if you don't want to give us the power or sit at the table, we're creating our own table. Yeah. And we don't do that politically, okay? So it's not, you've been in office for 90 years, and because you did something 20 years ago, 50 years ago, I'm going to keep it. No. When they say that, because I interviewed the candidates, okay? Because the bottom line, they are going to work for me. Yeah. And I want to know what type of employee you're going to be. Okay? So that's what I spread that word. And that's a promise. We can also do a political conversation. We got the different elected leaders, elected officials on that.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, thank you both. I definitely got to come out again. I know I only not even scratched the surface. Maybe I'll put my pinky toe in to the depth that is the Russell neighborhood and the well story here and where it's going. So thank you both again. And
you're welcome.
I'll be back hopefully if you allow me.
Yes, absolutely.
Are you coming out to the homecoming?
No, you have to tell me about. I don't even know about these things.
Yeah.
Okay, so next weekend, is it next weekend?
Yes.
Okay, so it's September 17th to the 19th. We're going to have our Russell homecoming where we're basically inviting all people in Russell and people who once lived in Russell to come back home and celebrate the businesses, the residents, the churches, and all of that. And so Friday we're having our Hall of the South soiree. As you heard, Miss Jackie was talking about how Russell used to have all the clubs, the movie theaters, the businesses. So we're celebrating the Hall of the South, what's known as the Hall of the South. And then Saturday we're having historic Russell tours, and we're having the big block party. And then on the 19th we're gonna have some church pop-ups where we're gonna be sharing our resources at I think 3 different churches. And then there's gonna be a small business brunch where people who are starting their businesses can come out and network and learn about what we got.
Oh, wow. Okay, so give me the dates again. The
17th through the 19th.
17th through the 19th. Come out to Russell neighborhood. It sounds like you'll be doing wonderful things.
The block party is going to be on Muhammad Ali.
18th at Muhammad Ali.
Between 17th and 18th.
Yeah.
We'll have food trucks there.
Ooh, okay, I'm
Free
in.
food too.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Okay, guys, we'll be back again with them. Bye.